Well guys, we've got a new car in, and it's an interesting one. So I'm guessing that, like me, most of you will not recognize this car. It's an Alfa Romeo 90 with a 2.5 liter V6, better known from the GT V6. It's exactly the same engine as is in there. Yeah, picked this up recently. It's a car that has been sitting for 22 years. Last driven in 1996. It's not really a barn find because the family that owned it never really lost it, so that's good, but we're still gonna have to recondition it. We're still gonna have to somewhat halfway restore it. As you can see, we've got a box full of things here. We've got fresh oil for the engine, transmission, then we've got coolant, we've got a water pump, we've got a distribution belt, then we've got the belt for the accessories and the belt for the alternator. Many things, spark plugs, everything. I want everything to be fresh. This is an Alfa Romeo 90 with the V6, as I said, and it's also got the transaxle in the back, and it's a manual, this car. So it's gonna be a nice summer car for someone. We're also gonna go through, after it's been put back in good technical order, we're gonna go through the paint, because in the 90s, as a courtesy of Alfa Romeo, it got a rust, sort of a rust maintenance and prevention respray, but it hasn't been done that well, so I want to respray it again in the original color, or maybe add a bit more pearl. I think that would be nice. And then some sportier wheels and tires, probably also from GT V6 or a car like that. Keeping it sort of stock, but a bit more sporty looking, because I think this car deserves it. And yeah, it's gonna be a nice car for someone in the summer, and then once it's all restored, we'll put it on our website. You can take a look. Yeah, this car is very interesting, in my opinion. It's got the active front spoiler for added cooling to the engine when you're going at high speeds. It's got a digital dashboard, electric seats, and electric windows, and all that as standard as well. So quite cool. I think it deserves to be put back on the road and reconditioned and restored. And yeah. So I think we should get started. As you can see, our fresh box of goodies. Also got a new battery there, and everything is ready to go in this car. There's the glorious V6. So we're still going to be working outside today, but we did find a new shop where we can move into in the next 2 weeks. This is hopefully the last car that I'll be doing here. That I'll be doing here in the old shop, and in 3 days it's my birthday. So the first goal is that I will finish this car in 3 days so that I can drive it on my birthday. And if I miss that, then at least the second goal is to be driving this to the new shop, so not having to take it on a trailer. I think that would be nice. Okay, so what we're gonna start with is the oil, and we've got a filter as well somewhere. Also I got brake fluid, as you can see, because I don't know how good the brake fluid is that's still in there. And then we're also going to change the brake pads and everything like that. So first things first is the oil. I'll put you down on the ground. So I always want to do at least an oil change if the car has been standing. It's just one of these things that keeps your engine running well. We've got some, as everything in the old days of automotive engineering, we've got some fairly substantial size of bolt. Okay, so luckily I found something that goes around this pan bolt and pan plug, and it's this one. For a while I was frightened that I would have to use a adjustable wrench, but luckily I don't have to lower myself to such standards. coming out. That's a good thing. And it looks fairly clear. You see? So whilst the oil is still leaking out at the bottom, we are going to change the oil filter, which lives somewhere down there. And it looks like it's easiest to take the air box off and then see if we can get in there. It's going to be a little bit tight. Also from the bottom the chassis rail is in the way, so it's not in the most optimal position. So now that the air filter is out of the way, air filter housing, we've got a vision of the oil filter there. It's the orange one deep down there. And it's been tightened on so tight, or maybe due to age, that you can't get it off with your hand as it's supposed to. And I was trying to avoid the smacking a screwdriver method into it and twisting that for as long as possible, because it always makes a huge mess. But it seems we have no other option. Okay, so I can't believe how long it took, but it's finally loose. Here's my jiggity. Now I have to even get it out from here. I think this car was not developed to have a air conditioning. But this optional extra is in the way of this. So, got the new one here. As you can see, it's slightly smaller, the capacity, but it's the same fitting, so that should be okay. This is what is recommended nowadays for this car. And of course we're gonna have to fill it up with oil before we put it back. So, I'm gonna use some of this oil on the gasket for the myth of it sealing better. Now I'll put it back. Hand tight. If you only put it hand tight, then you don't need all kind of gadgetry to take it off again. So that's done. Okay, so now that the new filter is on, I can open this and put some new oil. Now I'm gonna leave the little plug in the sump. I'm gonna leave it unplugged for now, so that I'll pour some new oil in. I actually got 10 liters of the stuff. Even though the car only needs 6.2, I want to flush some new oil through. Even though, like I said, there's no plug, so that any residue that's still in the pan will be flushed out with this. And I don't personally like to use, some people use diesel or other flushes, and I don't personally like to use that, because you never know what you leave behind and if it will break down your new oil. So just flushing some oil. Oh. Okay, so I poured about 0.75 of a liter in, and we'll let that all drip out, and then we'll actually fill up the rest with the fresh oil. The engine oil, the fresh engine oil is nearly done dripping out. It's time to put some plug back in. Sometimes if a car has been standing for a very long time, like this one, the little gasket here will stick to the pan when you take this off. So be careful to remember to take that off, and then you can put your new ones on. Voila, and then put that on. Also, if your sump plug has this magnetic part to it to catch any filaments that are floating around in your oil, be sure to clean that. You don't want to put that back into your fresh oil. Okay, so let's put that back in. As you can see, that's the last of it dripping out there, and it's totally clear, so I'm going to insert the new, or the the old plug with the new gasket. So now it's time to snug up that plug and then we are done. And ready to put the old filter on. Actually, that's already pretty snug. Okay, good. Time to put the new oil on. Look at a dipstick. No board computer oil readout nonsense in this car. As you can see, this is a device. You stick it into the side of an engine and you prong it down all the way to the bottom of the oil pan and you can read how much is in it. And of course, since I just drained this, this shows empty, right? This is the marker. This is empty, this is full, and it should be at least at the full mark when you changed or when you refilled it. So let's put this back. Then we'll open this and we'll glog in 5 liters in one go, since it takes 6.2 or 3. I'm using here a 15W40 oil as prescribed. Also, it is prescribed for the age and the kilometers as well. And it's a mineral oil since it's a classic car. And I don't want to switch to synthetic or even halfway synthetic, because I don't know if the future users will keep up with that. And if you don't, then you'll get leaks. So you can just chuck it all in one go, eh? 5 liters. So 5 liters in. Oh, leaked a bit. Have to clean that. And now I'll get the one that was already open and we're gonna have to measure. So we've got in here, can you see that? We've got in here 4 liters and a little bit. We're gonna have to measure exactly. We're gonna need 1.2 liters from this. So once it gets to the 3 mark, we are good. And then actually just before we get to the 3 mark, around about here, I'm gonna check the dipstick and see how much is in there already. We are at a little bit more than 3 liters here, and I'm gonna see on the dipstick where we are with the level, just so we don't overfill it. Oh, sorry. So. Okay. We are, I don't know if you can pick that up. As you can see, our oil level is right there, about half a fingernail below max, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna just add a tiny bit more, and then we are done with the oil change. And we are on max. As you can see, the level just got to that stripe there on the max. So that's perfect. And look how nice and clear the oil is. It's gonna stay like that until we start the engine. And then I'm expecting it to turn black very quickly, because of being a car that stood so long. So the first oil change we probably have to do very quickly after that. I would say maybe not even 1,000 kilometers. So, oil change done. I'm glad to have that old oil out. I saw that on the bottom of the pan there was already the oil had gone thick, and then the top of it was very thin. So I'm glad that that's all flushed out and the new oil is in, new oil filter. Now it's time for the timing belt. The car doesn't have enough kilometers for it to really be changed, but I think on these older cars you have to do it every 5 to 10 years, and this car has been sitting for 22. So even if, let's say, at the very beginning of its standing it was still changed, we are long overdue. So that's let's tackle the big job first, and after that I don't need a to-do list. I will just go through all the parts that I have in that box of parts that I showed you, and we'll keep going until it's done. Here we go. Let's do the timing belt, sorry. So, timing belt lives under this cover here, and it looks like it's not even too big of a job. There's no fan here to take off, anything like that. And it seems like we're just gonna take off this cover, maybe disconnect these coolant pipes if needed. Actually it is needed because we're gonna put on the new water pump, and then we'll change that belt and put it back together. It doesn't look that difficult. But we also have the belt for the two accessory belts here. One is for the alternator, one is starter motor. The only thing I'm a little bit afraid about with a car of this age that already has these kind of connectors is usually the plastic gets so brittle that they will just break when you try to unclip them. So we're gonna have to be very gentle with that. Very gentle indeed. Okay, let's get started. I can see already some bolts here that hold this cover on, so let's take those out and then we'll see from there. Now there is a downside to this engine here, that is that, as you can see, we've got the belt for the Alfa 90 2.5 liter V6, but there is no more tensioner. So we're just gonna have to go hope that the hydraulic tensioner in this car is still good. Now usually they are they're not to be changed with every belt change, because an hydraulic tensioner stays tensioned with the engine oil, but we just have to hope that it still works. Okay, let's take it apart. So on the way to taking off these covers, like I said, we have to take these covers off, get the timing belt on, or get the engine actually on top that center, and we have to see where that is, and I have to take these off, and to do that we have to slip them past these belts that are here. But this being a Alfa Romeo from the 80s, it doesn't have any tensioners to loosen the belt, so you actually have to take these all your accessories loose. And I just lost something. You have to take all your accessories loose from the engine to actually take your belt off. It's a little bit stupid, but I think in overall it is a nice type of car. Like all the cars are a nice type of car to start working on and to start learning about mechanics. Because, for example, if your alternator goes bad, you can see where it is. You see, oh, I have to take that bolt, that bolt, that bolt, and it comes out, and I will replace it with the new one. In a new car, you really have to go searching, looking, plug in your diagnostics device, see what's wrong, you know, what is the actual problem. Here it's everything is laid out in front of you, and it's easy to see what it is that you will replace. Like right in here we can see that there's the water pump, which we will have to replace too. Now, like I said, all of this has to be loosened up to take this belt out, but it's okay because they were all things that we wanted to replace anyway. Like the new belts are already lying there, and we're gonna pop those on once that's all done with the timing belt, and then these small accessory belts can go back on. So just a little update on the stupidity that makes it easy. And then we'll catch you when we are at the further stage. Everything is off that we needed to get off to get to the actual belt and to see the little marker down there of the top dead center. When we're gonna twist, or when we're gonna how do you say turn the crank over to get the cylinders to top that center, so that we know where the position is when we take this off. In case anything might happen, then we can reset the engine to top that center and put that new belt on. So these are the old accessories belts. I'll pick them out for you. I say that so easily, huh? Okay, 1 second. Well, there we go. Got the old belt out, and I will move these out of the way so you have a bit clearer view. The thermostat that lived here, where these were connected to, is also already gone. Thermostat housing. Look how clear the coolant is, remarkably clear for 22 years of standing. That's dripping down now into a pan that I've got under the car. And yeah, next thing to do is to untension. Oh no, first we're gonna find top dead center, then we're gonna untension the tensioner. It's the hydraulic one that I spoke of. It seems to be in perfect working condition, super stiff, so I'm glad about that we don't have to worry about that. And yeah, then this old belt can come off. One more thing, we're also going to replace this here water pump. I just don't want to leave it right now since we're getting this far, and all these bolts that hold it in, they're not equal length, so you have to either mark them or put them in a systemized way to know where they are from, because they go in the same length but they don't hold it as tight, if you know what I mean. So in order to find the top dead center, there's this little mark here down on the crankshaft, on the crank pulley. Do you see the mark by my finger? Yeah. And to turn the crankshaft over, you have to take the spark plugs out like I did already. I'll place these back in case something will fall inside, like a wrench, for example. Imagine the whole wrench gets eaten. Up. Hopla. The only problem that I have is that the 6th cylinder, the spark plug has been cross-threaded before and is totally stuck in there. I can understand how this happened, because this one is in the way. Then you try to jam your tool in there at an angle. Of course the spark plug is going to be at an angle, and it's checked up. I'm not going to try to get it out. I'll be more worried about the damage that you can cause to the head with this than the actual benefits of a new spark plug in there. Or you might even not be able to put your new spark plug in it, because by then the threads are totally kaput. So yeah, that's a bit what we have right now. Spark plugs are out. I'm going to get my socket for the crank, and then we can turn that over. Okay, so we are now at the point where we can use a paint marker to make markings on the sprocket, the belt and the engine. So, as you can see, we've got our paint markings on. They're also on the engine. And just want to get some small cable ties and get your things out of the way in preparation of taking the belt off. So I made this little handy dandy tool to keep the cams in the same position and locked into place. And now we can pull the belt. Okay, so I actually have some cars to pick up, which is great news. But unfortunately, it means that the Alfa here has to wait a couple days. So we're gonna cut it here. Thank you for watching episode 1 of the Alfa Romeo 90. Next episode it will start, and hopefully it will run. So tune in for that, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.